How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions Podcast. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking with Mark Evans. He is a guy who has done a lot of amazing things. He's obviously involved in triathlon to some degree. That's how I got wind of him. I think he jumped on a roulette live that Mark and I did probably close to a year ago. Since then, have got to exchange with him some, ask him to be on the podcast. He is an engineer, past military man, family man, newly engaged. Just a lot of different things. And he shares a lot of stories from really deep and personal places today. So I really appreciate him for doing that. And I don't want to spoil too much, so I'll go ahead and introduce him. So thanks for being here. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mark Evans. First thing I should say, I just realized you're in North Carolina. It's 3 hours ahead. Thank you so much for meeting with me so late. I think if someone wanted to schedule at 8:30, it would have to be a pretty hard sell for me. So thanks for making the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely very close to my bedtime. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. What does the typical bedtime look like for you, and what time do you get up?
Usually 9 o'clock, and I'm up. I generally try to sleep until 6:30, but it's just part of getting old, man. You want to get up early. It's like it's like you're afraid you're not going to wake up. Maybe I don't know what it is.
No, I understand. So I was out East Coast not too many days ago, about a week ago now, for a graduation of my cousin, and I always like coming back because it's easier to wake up even earlier. And it does get light out here in California around 6 o'clock, so it was nice this week to be getting up earlier. So I definitely feel you there. With your hours, though, you pretty much make your own schedule, right? Like things are pretty flexible on your end.
Yeah. So I'm an engineer in my company. I have an office here, but I'm what's called a hybrid employee. So I only have to do 50% of my time in the office. So very flexible. Yeah.
Yeah. You think they're going to change that? Is there a shift back toward trying to get everybody in the office?
There has been a shift of not too much with the hybrid folks. We have also have teleworkers that work exclusively from home, and they're kind of phasing them out, and they're making the people who are what's called resident workers, they're making them come back to in office every day. So yeah, it's kind of the trend now.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, we have a ton of money invested in real estate. Like, our office spaces are beautiful. They're top notch in very, very nice locations. So I understand the kind of push to get folks to use it, because I go back to, we have headquarters in Virginia and San Diego, and I visit them quite a bit, and they're empty, man. Yeah. It's like these beautiful, lush office buildings with nobody in them. So
yeah, it's interesting. I feel like for me, because of kind of working for myself or being able to be flexible, I have done this whole, work from home thing for a while. But for me, I've definitely learned that there's something to the right kind of space, at least with my personality, for finding the right space and then being able to kind of meld into that. I don't know, like it promotes healthy brain waves. Who knows what it is exactly, but to be in a good space, like, definitely helps me to be able to focus. And I feel like those who are forced to go in, obviously if it's like a cubicle situation, you're not going to get the taste the different types of spaces you could potentially work in. But if you have the beautiful ones, I think I would actually look forward to that. I'm not really a 9-to-5 person. I don't think I make a very good employee, but
I think the company I work for, obviously they're a very big company. They have a lot of resources, and they do a really good job of accommodating I guess I'm the old guy, but the guy who wants an office with a door and a window. And then there's all kinds of like cubbies all over the place, like little couches, and like they have like these weird telephone soundproof booths you can go into just to take like a phone call. And
yeah, that's cool.
So I think it caters to the different generations, if you will.
Yeah. How many years young are you, Mark?
So I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50 in May.
Okay. So in the past few minutes now, you've mentioned twice that you are the old guy. So tell me about this relationship you have with your mortality right now.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You won't understand it until you're old.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's not something that I've always considered myself a very, at least, curious person. I don't want to say I'm smart, but I tried to educate myself in different ways when I was younger, because I was genuinely curious about the world and I wanted to understand my surroundings and who I was and why things happen the way they do. But I'll tell you, the mortality thing is something that you just have to experience. It's very hard to learn how precious time is and how precious your youth is, especially your body. Even though I've taken care of myself and I've spent my time in what I thought was a meaningful way, as you age and as you get older, you really see the bell curve, the other side of the bell curve, and it's sobering. And you're like, wow, I'm not going to be able to do this for much longer, or I don't have this much more time to spend with the people I think are important to me and make me feel the best. So yeah, I mean, I try not to focus on that. I think it does make people uncomfortable a little bit, especially folks that don't really understand it. But
I like it.
I've also been through wars, like no shit war, and I've almost been killed. I'm sure we'll touch on that. But those things, they create, they prioritize things for you in a world that you don't always. Speaking from my experience around young people, my children maybe, they don't really have solid priorities because they don't understand the world quite like I do, and that's part of living your life, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at a point in my life where I understand that, and it's changed my behavior and my priorities.
Where to go from here? Well, I was going to say something that sounds a little, I don't know, shallow, but we will go into the deep things. But, as you're talking about your mortality and, having the body to be able to do things with, I mean, I guess yourself, but also the ones that you love. I'll be 33 next month and my wife's pregnant right now. So there's a lot of changes going on up here in terms of what value,
Is this your
I
first
put on
child?
it. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a big deal, man.
Yeah, so it's huge. Like everyone always says, and all my friends, because I'm a little later to having kids, and a lot of my friends have already had kids, and they tell me, and oh, it's this huge thing, change your life forever. And obviously, you can hear that, and you can try to quantify what that looks like, but until you experience it, it's nothing. And I just got a little piece of it when we saw the ultrasound the other day, and just saw the arms and legs kicking, and I was like, my reaction so far has been, I feel the well of emotion, but I start laughing a little bit. I think it's out of like excitement and. I'm sure I'll have time to reflect and figure out what that is. But with what you were saying, with our bodies being able to do things, I'm going for runs nowadays, and I'm fitter than I've ever been. And I've never really even put a value on longevity and endurance of body and mind, probably until I was like 25. So it's a very short window in my life that I've started to value that. And I've thought about, well, will I still love this sport when I can't go as far and as hard as I feel like I should be able to mentally? And, with what you were saying, the width and depth of the experience that you have gives a new perspective and changes the weights of the value we see, I think, on time and relationships. And, I lost my dad at a very young age when I was 16. So from that experience, it definitely, I think, robbed some of my childhood, but gave me a big question mark over my head for many years as I was kind of going through finding out what it means to be an adult and to be a man, of like, well, what is most valuable, and how, if life is so precious, how do I change my actions and live that way? So for you, you're talking about these things you went through: war, family, obviously the job situations, you have kids, you're engaged. So you have had a lot of these highs and lows.
I'm engaged to a 30-year-old too. So there's another dynamic,
Yeah. To a what? What did you say? It cut out for me.
I'm sorry, Lynette. My fiance, she's only 30, so.
Well, good for you, man.
Well, still got it.
Yeah, you still got it. I mean, you obviously have some young spirit within you. Like, you still have a lot of energy. You look really good for 52. I don't see any.
That
gray
makes
hair.
you think too, man. I mean, that makes you really think about things.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna ask you, like, what lessons through the highs and lows, and this would probably be a good time to just kind of open up into however deep and long you want to take it with your story, but like what lessons have you learned that have shown you the value of these things, such as time, relationships, your mortality, like those things?
A ton, man. I've learned a ton.
I can guide you more if you want to like give
No. So like, I feel like, two things really stick out to me, in all my experiences in life. One is you don't always get what you deserve, right? And I think that's a slippery slope you can fall into in life, is like, hey, I've done all the right things, and this is what I'm working towards, and you can do everything exactly right, and it doesn't always work out the way that you really think it should. Classic example is I took care of myself for a very long time. When I was 48, I think, when I got hit by the car, and I had been through all kinds of things that you should probably get hurt really bad doing, and I was in great shape. I mean, ripped, man. Like, I'm not even joking. I was tip top. I wasn't the fastest guy in the world, but man, I was healthy, eating well. I had no issues whatsoever. Joints, nothing. My eyes, like, take care of your eyes. That's your eyes and your ears. And in an instant, I was hit by that car, and man, I feel old. I'll be honest with you. I just feel old now. Like, things hurt. My core muscles, I think I've gotten all my big muscle groups back. My legs weren't hurt that bad, so I wasn't, but like my back, I was in a brace. Like, my arms are back. My chest is back to where it's not like concave, because it was atrophied so bad. Yeah. But those little tiny, like those core muscles, the things you don't realize you use, they take a long time, and I'm still working on that. I'm actually working with a trainer who specializes in pelvic floor stuff for like post-pregnancy type stuff, because all that part of my body, it really felt like my upper body, my lower body were not connected.
Wow.
So, I initially, after the accident, I was like, all right, I'm going to live, I might lose my arm, but I'll be okay. And then like the next step, I think, was, I can do this. Like, I can recover from this. Like, this is not going to be the end of my athletic career. And then I think probably, I would say fairly recently, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I realized that I'm not going to be able to fully recover. Like, I'm never going to be the man I was physically. Now, I still run in the 6s, I don't swim anymore, but I can jump in a pool and swim 130s. So, I'm putting out 3.2 watts per kilogram. I'm way above average, especially for my age. But, when I compare, I try not to, but I do compare myself to pre-accident Mark and post-accident Mark. I lost something that I'll never get back. So, that really, for a little while, it made me angry. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing I could tell someone in this world, avoid the emotion of anger as much as you possibly can, because it never leads to anything good, really. I had a lot of hope. I had a lot of like aspirations to like overcome these things, but I think I realize now, and I've accepted the fact after being angry for a little while, that I'm never going to be the same. So, and that kind of, quite frankly, that pisses me off a little bit, especially after taking care of myself for 48 years, making it through 24 years of active duty military service, which is just by having to eat some of the things I've eaten and not being able to work out and not getting enough sleep, like in the stress factors, like I've really I felt accomplished in the fact that I retired and I wasn't like disabled. I almost zero disability. So after all that, and I hit by a car, racing. So, yeah, that made me angry. And I think the lesson I learned is you don't get what you deserve in life. You get what you can handle, I guess, to coin a phrase. But, yeah, I think that, and, the other thing that life has taught me is you have to be an active participant in your life. I think there were a few years I just let kind of things happen to me, and I didn't really have a focus or a goal. So, you get comfortable. Even with being uncomfortable, you get comfortable. Training for an Ironman, I just woke up every day and rode on my bike for 2 hours. And then after work, I would swim for an hour, and that was just it. Like, it was no big deal. Like, whatever. Yeah, I'm a rock star. But I think there was some time there where I was just doing it because that's all I knew to do. Like, I wasn't working towards a goal or anything like that. So, that's top of my head.
Yeah.
I think those are the two things that really stick out to me through this whole experience.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that gives me some good context, and I think for the listeners too. But I want to go back now, getting to understand Mark even from a younger age. So, where are you from?
So I'm from Northeast Pennsylvania. If you've ever seen The Office, the town of Scranton.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty close to how it's portrayed on TV. It's pretty boring there, but it was a really good place to grow up. I come from a family of 9 children.
Wow.
So my father had 2 children. My mother had 4, and they got married and had 3 more. So it was like kind of a bastardized Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
My oldest brother's 20 years older than me. My dad was 45 when he had me, and I have a little brother. So, it's never too late to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I had my kids when I was 32. So you're not too far off, man.
Yeah.
You got plenty of good years in you.
Thank
You
you.
just got to prepare yourself.
Yeah. Stay healthy.
So 9 kids. I grew up, I was always an athlete. My older brothers always made sure I was the biggest loser. And, turns out that makes you tough after a while. You either get really fast or you take a beating pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Different time. It was all out of love.
Yeah.
But, I got beat up 5-6 times a day before breakfast. And then, that was just normal to me, and played basketball, football, baseball. I think I learned late that I was not going to be a football player at 5'10", 135 when I graduated. But I did have really good hand-eye coordination, and I was fast. So I tried to keep the dream alive. But I got into cross country my senior year, and that's how I got started as a runner. Okay. I actually went to the state, and I finished like 40th in the state. Might have been 30th. But, I did really well.
Yeah. Unexpected?
Yeah, I never ran before in my life. I just did it because I didn't play football that year. So,
yeah.
Funny story, like my football team, my high school football team won the state championship the year I graduated. Mm-hmm. And the cross-country state meet was the same weekend as the football championship.
Okay.
And so it was me and the cross-country coach at the cross-country meet, and the rest of the high school was at the football state championship. And then the next Monday, the principal gets on the phone, or on the loudspeaker, and he's like, "Oh, I want to thank our football team." He's going on for like 20 minutes, names all the kids on the team, great job for winning the state championship. And everybody's like cheering, and then everybody kind of sits down, and you hear the mic come. Oh, what's his name? Mark. Oh, and we want to congratulate Mark Evans for competing at the state cross country championship. Like all the kids are looking at me like, the hell is cross country?
Yeah.
There was like 7 kids on the team, but
so what
made me tough.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, what did that do for you? Like, obviously, well, let me ask you this: when you finished, you did better than you expected. Was there a new sense of like value and confidence in what you could do or what you wanted to do? Like, you said it changed your trajectory quite a bit. So what was going on internally for you?
Yeah, so I think that's what sparked my curiosity about things in life. To that point, you either got shoved in a locker every day or you played football. So I chose football. I'd rather get beat up on the football court. Like, that's just the way the school was. If you weren't a football player, you weren't nothing. You were not nothing. That's probably a double negative.
You weren't not anything.
You weren't not nothing.
I
But
grew up in North Carolina, so.
yeah, there you go. But so and all my brothers had played, and they're bigger than me. They're not anymore, but in high school they were bigger and stronger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was like, "Oh, you should play football. Your brothers are so good." And so I thought I had to play football. I thought I had to do all these things. I thought I had to find a girl to marry. I thought I had to go to college right out of high school. I thought I had to do all these things. And if I wasn't doing one of those things, I was somehow not living
to your potential.
To my potential. So when I did do cross country, my father was like, "Okay, whatever. Like, I don't even know what sport that is." And all my brothers were like, "Don't worry, we won't let nobody beat you up." Like, and it was me and, the geeks on the cross country team. I think there was maybe 10 of us. But it was, one of the best experiences of my life, to be honest with you. The coach loved the sport of running, and he invested in people. Not that the football coach didn't, but you were expendable on the football team because, I was the third string safety. They could probably pad up one of the cheerleaders and they do better than me. But, so I felt like someone cared genuinely about me and my sports and my ability, and not just how well I did running, but how well I did as a person. Owen Conahan was his name, the coach. Very odd name, Owen, but really great guy. I mean, just salt of the earth, cared about the people on the team. He would talk to you about things that maybe, my father was a different generation again. They just didn't talk about stuff back then. And if you had a question, you could go to him, and, he genuinely cared about his people. And, I learned a lot about leadership. And later on in my life in the military, when I became a leader, I definitely took some cues from Coach Conahan. So, curiosity, that just sparked in me like, okay, well, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, what else can I do, that might be better for me rather than better for the people I'm trying to impress?
Yeah. So when you say the people you're trying to impress, I'm reading between the lines a little bit, but it sounds like there was some parental element to that. Yeah. So how did that play out for you? You said that was your senior year, I believe. So your big changes are about to come. You thought, oh, I have to go to college. What did your life look like in terms of the direction you were being given from your parents and then the direction you took?
So my father, let me first say this. My dad is my hero. No doubt in my mind. If I could ever sit and talk with someone in my life for 5 minutes, it would be my dad. However, my father was born in 1931, and he had 4 brothers, and he tried to go to World War II, but his 4 brothers were already in the war, and he was too young. He fought in Korea, came back, worked construction, started as a telephone man early in his life for Bell, Pennsylvania, and then, just worked really hard. Not educated, didn't have 2 nickels to rub together to make a dime. Built his own house with his own hands. Wow. We're talking folks like that. They're not around anymore. And if they are, I want to meet them. This guy could do anything. Anyway, that's the guy I grew up with. He was a hard man. It wasn't I love you. It wasn't you're going to do great. It was, hey, dumbass, go take the garbage out. And if it's not out in 5 minutes, I'm going to get out of this chair. You know what I mean? That's the kind of guy he was. But, I always had food. I always had water. I always had a bicycle. I had everything I needed. and we did not have a lot. So my dad worked himself to death. He worked for 50, 60 plus years taking care of his family. And, I respect that, because I look at my life now and, man, I wouldn't want to go to work every day like my father did, and just come home and watch the 11 o'clock news and go to bed and get up at 5 o'clock and do it all over again every day of his life. So there was an element of you're a strong man and you will achieve. I felt that pressure from my father. However, he never once verbalized that to me. So I think part of that's on me, because I just assumed. And my brothers, all my older brothers were like, you can't be a loser. Come on, we have a family tradition. You got to be good at football. You got to be good at football. But I was too small. I was like,
no, I get it. Yeah.
So tiny.
I'm 5 foot. I'm 5'5".
Well, it's funny. I'm 6'3" now, and I'm like 180. But I was a late bloomer. If I say a late bloomer, I'm talking like mid-20s. I was growing from like age 18 to 27 was my growth spurt. So, wow. But I just assumed that's what my father wanted me to do. I never asked him. Quite frankly, he never really talked like that. I'm not kidding. He called me dumbass and stupid. But what you got to know about my dad, like the fact that he was talking to you made you feel special. Like you're like, oh my God, Dad called me an idiot today. Like, and that was just the way he showed love. And his father was very stern with him. And that was just the person he was. And, if you want to be judgmental of my father, then go for it. But I love the guy because he made me one of the strongest people I possibly could have been. Like, I went to boot camp and, man, I was laughing at those guys. I'm like really?
The drill sergeants and.
Well, I wasn't allowed to drill sergeant because they'll get on you. But, the guys in my boot camp company with me, they're like, oh, this sucks, man. This is terrible. I'm like, dude, you should hold the flashlight in the garage for my dad. Like, like you don't even know what bad is. Like, this is nothing. So, he really prepared me for that. And he prepared me for a lot of the difficult times I had in the military, dealing with very serious situations. He prepared me for when I became a father, both good and bad influences. Like I kind of had an idea of, hey,
what you want, what you don't.
Yeah. He gave me an example to base myself off of what a man is and how they take care of their family, right? Mm-hmm. Was he perfect? Absolutely not. Sure. Was he my dad? And did he love me beyond the earth? Yes. And for that, I really appreciate it, what he did for me. So,
how old was your dad when he passed?
89, I think.
So he lived a pretty long life.
So 2017, 31/9. Was 86? 86.
Yeah. Not that long ago then. I mean.
Yeah. 2017, he passed. And, he just, a lesson my father taught me was you have to stay engaged with your life. My father worked so long and so hard. When he got done working and he couldn't work anymore, he had nothing. He had no hobbies. He had no close friends. He had nothing that interested him beyond work. So I feel like, and he would probably tell you too, he sat in a chair for 7 years and watched, TV. And one day he was talking to my mom and he just slumped over in his chair and that was it.
Wow. Your mom's still alive?
Yes. My mom is in Pennsylvania. Yep. Back in the home that my father built. So.
Wow.
She was 11 years younger than my dad, so she's still in her 70s, I think. But yeah.
Do you guys want to keep that house in the family after she does pass?
Oh man, you don't want to hear this story, but my brother owns it. Not a good story.
No.
So everybody's got family things,
Sure.
and I am not exempt from that. I have
Yeah.
two brothers that are idiots. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And one of my idiot brothers owns it, um,
Mm.
and he acts like he's, uh, you know, the prodigal son. But he was always a big pain in the ass for my father and my mother.
Mm.
But
Well, hopefully he
that's
comes back from being the prodigal.
no, he's in his 60s, so I don't think he's ever going to change. But
Let me ask you this, because you're an older man, and you don't, like you said, this curiosity thing, having just being engaged with your life. Like, these are what I would say, like, more of a fluid type of, or flexible type of personality traits, which you don't typically find in older men. There's the stereotype, obviously, that for men and women, but specifically men, you get in a way, you get set in it, and they're like, he's not changing, can't teach an old dog new tricks. But you don't seem like that type of man. Like, I feel like we could have a conversation. You could probably change your mind on some things. Not picking anything out in particular, but that's just the kind of man you come off to me. What is it about men that cements us into our ways as we get older? Have you found that answer?
yeah, I think it's insecurity.
Hmm.
So I think speaking for all men, let me get on my
Hey, I
soapbox.
asked the question, so.
Yeah, honestly, in my experience, I've dealt, a lot of type A folks in the military, jumping out of aircraft and shooting things, right? A lot of rah shit.
Hmm.
And I think in my experience, the people that have always been set in their ways, do it from a place of insecurity, and it's to kind of show that they have confidence, right? So I have extreme confidence in myself. I know that I can walk into any situation, assess it, and do okay. I also know that I don't know everything. And I am the first one to go, hey, wait a minute, I'm the wrong guy to be doing this. I don't want to hurt anybody or screw anything up. So let's get some help in here. And I think somewhere the water got a little muddied with this whole confidence thing as a man. Because I'll be honest with you, my confidence is very attractive. I've had several people, like, I'm okay looking, but the fact that I'm a confident guy,
Yeah.
I speak well, I present well, I am able to communicate my thoughts fairly well. That has gotten me fairly far in life. So, men, in my experience, they see that immediately around me. They're like, oh, this guy's pretty confident. He knows what he is. He knows what he isn't. More importantly, I think when you want to be that way and you don't know how to be that way because you're insecure about something, whether it's your looks or your job, whatever, you try to overcompensate for that and be set in your ways because it worked one time that way,
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my dad was that way. It was his way or the highway. And that's not the best way to be. That's simple. And I think the military taught me that. I kind of had that example of my father being very stern and, this is the way you do it. And if you don't do it, get out of my house. But when you're in a dynamic situation, when I was in the military and I had to, you had several competing things, no matter what I was doing, whether it was, personnel or equipment or mission sets or whatever, you have to kind of be able to triage in your mind and go, okay, this is the way I know I can do it. But I can't do that because I don't have the resources or the personnel or the time to do that way. So I need to be able to figure out a different way to accomplish this. And that's, in my experience, that's what the military taught me is you need to continually assess things and be willing to, pump the brakes on something. A lot of guys, they get down a path and they're just like,
Full bore.
I'll ride this train to hell, be me and the devil sitting there, but it's going to be my way, That's not the best way to go about things. So I think the confidence thing out of a sense of insecurity
Hmm.
is where that comes from.
Good answer. Very interesting. I haven't thought about it in that particular way. I've seen lots of decisions and directions taken out of a position of insecurity, but I wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought of that explanation of my own. So thanks for sharing that.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
And I love this example. And I've actually gotten in fairly heated conversations about this. This is a triathlon example. I have a few friends, I'm sure you do too, who talk about swimming with a watch on. It's very controversial. I mean, I'm about to lose some friends here, but people say you can't swim with a watch on. If you're swimming with a watch off, you're not a good swimmer. You're not a triathlete. And there's some fairly high-level coaches who will like make videos about it. And I get it. Like we want to make content. We want to be unique and da. But I will say this. I know a lot of really good swimmers that swim with watches on. So
I swim with one on my face, and I consider myself a decent swimmer.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all situational, and to put out a blanket statement and feel like this is concrete, this is gospel. 1 John, 2 Corinthians, it's not. Yeah. Like it's just it's your philosophy, maybe it's your way of doing something, but to say it fits everybody, I think is a bit hubris.
Yeah.
I'm using that word correctly, but
no, I totally agree. Everyone is so different, and I've been coaching now for maybe 5 years or so, and I don't consider myself anywhere near, just like as high as you can go. Like there's still so much to learn, but if there's one thing I've learned from kind of coaching myself a few years and having other coaches and coaching several people, everybody is so uniquely different. Like there's underlying principles, but if it gives somebody confidence to wear a watch on and they have mental clarity, it's better to do that than to have them not have a watch on and get out there and swim. And one way may be quote unquote better than the other, but it helps to give them the mental strength.
A 47-year-old corporate guy, probably not going to make the Olympic team. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yeah. Let him wear the watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you're coaching him from 8 states away. Yeah. Like that's the absolute best situation. So you have some data to look at and go, oh, your swath is off, or your swole, or whatever the heck that weird thing is.
That number, yeah.
Keep your strokes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's dumb.
So I just think being set in your ways, you're setting yourself up for failure eventually.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, and I was going to ask this a little bit earlier, but with your dad, you had a very clear example. It doesn't sound like there was a lot of gray area with him. It was this way or that way, and it was very easy to find and to know his boundaries, which has its positives and negatives. But I think by and large,
you know what you're getting. Yeah.
By and large, so many people in our society now lack a father figure, or have a father figure that is just so incredibly gray on where they stand, and so like a wave of the ocean tossed and driven by the wind, that it leaves kids out, like not knowing where their father stands. So then like their self-identity can be completely like all over the place. So for you had that kind of hardline approach. You got to know Owen. Owen influenced your life. How did that influence as you went on from high school, and then you can transition into like the life in the military or anything that happened in between? How did that affect the way that you chose mentors, or did you choose them? Did they just kind of happen to you?
It's an interesting question. So I don't think that I ever chose a mentor. I think
or gravitated, or
I think I just naturally admired people. Not always men. There's some women that I really admired. I saw folks as an amalgamation of different things. For me, you didn't have to be perfect. Like I always felt like I could learn something from everyone, whether that's a positive lesson or negative. So, as I experienced the military, I had some very negative influences. When you're young and you first go in and you're getting drunk and doing things you probably should be doing. And then, even among those folks, some of the guys that I was going out with, they always had a line, or they always had something that brought them back, from right or left back on the center line. So I think I gravitated towards them because they had an individual or a center of gravity, if you will, in life. So a few guys, I think that helped guide me through my adolescent years, which I'm talking, I joined the military in 21 after 2021, or I'm sorry, when I was 21.
Yeah.
1996. And that was after 3 years I worked for my dad, who had his own company by that time, for a little bit. I tried college, got to go to class and all this other shit.
Yuck.
I was just, at the Delta Cairo house drinking all the time. So I got asked to leave college, and I went back, and I was working for my dad, partying with my buddies from high school, not really doing much other than that. And, my dad, to his credit, he came in and he said, "You know what? You're better than this." He goes, "You need to find something to do with your life." My father, and I'm not exaggerating, my father was a genius. I think he just understood the world, especially electronics. Like, he just knew things. It was weird, man. And I think he knew that I was at least half as good as him. And the town that I was in, was a bunch of, Neanderthals, just drinking, chasing women. So he and my brothers were that way too. So he was like, "You need to get away from here and go do something." So that's when I went down. My little brother had already joined the Navy. I went and saw him at boot camp, and then I came home and I signed up for the Navy. So that's kind of what got me into the military. And then once I was in the military, the influences came slow. I was hanging out with the young guys, drinking, partying, and then I met a guy. He was my first. So in the military, you have like middle management. That's your chief, specifically in the Navy. And he was an old dude, man. He not only was old, but he looked old. Like, he looked like an old grandpa. And he kind of started talking to me like my father would. Like, "You're an idiot. Like, what are you doing, you dummy, hanging out with these guys? Like, what are you gonna do with your life?" And he was the first guy, Jim Parker. He was the first guy that really, invested in me emotionally. That's kind of a strong word, but he invested in me. He saw my potential, gave me some good talking tos, some honest truth type stuff. And, that guy had a lot of the same characteristics as my father, very hardworking, very, you weren't guessing with him. He told you what he thought and why he thought that way. He may be critical, but he also provided you with why he felt that way, and, some really good reasons he felt that way. So, like, even if you're upset for him being critical of you, you had to be like, "Yeah, you're right. That's absolutely a good reason." But yeah, Jim Parker, I'd say he really got me serious about my career in the military, and he kind of lit a fire under my ass, got me going, got me focused. And there's a rank in the Navy called Master Chief. I made that relatively young. And I credit Jim Parker largely for that feat, because he's a great guy. Helped me out a lot.
Yeah. So what did you want to do after that? Like, and how many years of service did you give? And
so I retired 2017, so 22, a little over 22 and change.
That's a long time.
I got my degree while I was in. I had my kids. I have twins, a boy and a girl. I cried when they were born. I think that's like that was the first time I think I cried as an adult.
Really?
Oh man, I was a mess. I was strong the whole day. But then I went home alone because they were in the NICU because they were premature, and their mom had a C-section. So, but I got home and I just sat down in the living room and I just started crying. But
what were you feeling?
It was a good
as you
cry.
cried? I really want to know. Yeah.
You know, for me, children, I always knew that I had these, I guess I had emotion inside me, but I never felt like extreme anger, excitement, or extreme sadness. I, I just would be sad or angry or happy. It was kind of like, you're hanging out in you know, the middle there. And when I never forget the ultrasound, because we thought we were only having one baby, and they got the ultrasound wand on there, and the nurse is like, "Oh, there's the baby," and I'm looking at the thing, and the nurse turned to grab something, and when she turned, the wand went over a little bit, and I was like, "I think that's another baby in there," like in my mind.
Yeah.
And she turned back around, and I go, "What?" Like just as I pointed at the screen, she goes, "Oh, there's another one." And I mean, I felt the entire range of emotion. Like I was like, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God." Like
Yeah.
I was so excited, and then
Petrified.
man. Especially was still, had the mind of a 15-year-old, which
Yeah.
I think I'm only at 17 now. So, I'm like, no one's life should depend on me. Like I am not qualified for this. Right. And I'm going to have two. So, I think that for me, that's, that would be my takeaway from the childbirth experience is getting to manage my own level of emotion now that I have. I used to this was my range, and now my range is this, so it's because you gotta have your stuff together when you got kids watching you. They don't forget.
Copying everything. Yeah, it's how they
Yeah.
learn. Less about what we say, I've heard, and more
Yeah.
about what they observe.
Yeah. Got to be a good example.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then throughout the military, as I went up higher and higher, more responsibility, it started really teaching me things about just life in general. Some of the stuff I was talking about, but you don't always get what you deserve, and you can do all the right things and still bad things happen. And I had a lot of bad things happen to me in the military. So,
are you okay if I ask questions about them?
Sure.
So the first question I want to ask that'll probably lead to this. So from a very young age, like troubled-ish childhood, I wasn't like crazy, but it was pretty regular that I would get in fights. And one of the things that I just disliked about myself for so many years that I did not understand, I actually thought I had some form of sickness or something, is when I would get into an intense emotional situation and try to fight or defend myself, because I got picked on a lot being small. So I would but I had a very big heart, so I'd want to fight somebody. Whenever that would happen or that would break out, just the inability to control my emotions and my nervous system enough to be able to square up, defend, make a strike or whatever. It was just very erratic. And I would have dreams about just being totally out of control where I couldn't land a punch.
Oh, no.
And then as I got older, I realized oh, you have to train that form of your body to be able to calm yourself, do some things, and then, think critically in the moment, kind of set aside the emotion so you can go to whatever it is, go to war. So for you, I don't know if you experience things like that, but it sounds like from what I've observed, not being in the military, they take you through training that gets you to that point to where you can more or less tune out those types of things to focus. So when the push came to shove, when you got into some of those situations, like someone's trying to kill you, you're trying to survive, did that ever take over to where you felt like you were losing control? And if not, what did you do to be able to stay in that moment of control, safety, think clearly?
Yeah, I don't know. So I will say this. When you go into the military, you are put through a fairly aggressive training program. You start with boot camp, then we went to sub school. I was in submarines. So they really stress you out. And I don't know if it was designed to make you that way or if I was naturally that way. But I think one of my hallmarks as a leader was my ability to control myself. And I don't honestly know how I got that way. whether it was through the training that they put me through, or if I had some, natural predisposition to it. But when I was in stressful situations like life or death, and I had to do things, and I'm talking complex things.
You can share them if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah, no, like, so on a submarine, as a senior enlisted guy, so I was the chief of the boat on a submarine. And you are the diving officer of the watch. So basically, you are flying the ship through water, but you're flying the ship. And, when you're doing high speed maneuvers or when you're doing shallow water operations, you have, I'm talking seconds, less than a second sometimes, to react to things such as, I'll give you an example, salinity change in water. So you know how if you go in the Dead Sea, you float, and then you go in a lake and you sink, right? The reason is because the water has two different densities. Well, a submarine going through the water, there are pockets, especially if you're near a river, brackish water. So if you have a freshwater source coming out into the ocean, the buoyancy of the submarine may change in a heartbeat. And if you're in shallow water and you don't want to hit the bottom, you have seconds to respond. And I always have been able to be like super focused in on what I need to do in that moment. And I think part of it's training. I think part of it is my personal kind of preparation for times like that, because I knew that I would be put in that situation. So I always made sure I would walk myself through things like scenarios like, what if a fire happens right now? What if this happens right now? What if that happens right now? So I think that kind of self-preparation plus the training, I always felt like I wanted to be the person responsible for making those actions. And then even when I was in Afghanistan, same thing. I never really, I don't want to take credit for things but honestly, you're just so like focused on doing what you got to do and the people around you. You're not consciously going like, oh, I need to keep it together. Get your shit together, man. Like those words don't even come out of your mouth. You're one or two types of people. You either do it because you're trained properly and you're prepared, or you get sent home because you're a liability. Like that's the level at which you're playing. So, I always managed to do it because I really felt that I trained properly and I prepared myself mentally to do it. So I didn't have any issues with that. There were people who had major issues with that, and they, we didn't keep them around. It's not even like, we don't care who you're sleeping with, who you're praying to, what color you are. It's you're going to kill somebody, bro. You're out of here. Like, we love you. Go find something else to do with your life. We wish you the best, but you're not going to do this, So I think that was it. Training and mental preparation was huge.
So it's 6:27, 9:30, almost your time. I'm going to be respectful of your time. I know you got to go to bed. So you tell me when to cut it off, or like if we could need to dive into another time, because I'd love to have you on again and I can ask some of these questions. But how are we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm just sorry about the connection. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It records it locally on your end and my end. So as long as I can hear you and see you a little bit, it's fine because it'll come through high HD, so no stress.
Awesome.
So I'll ask you this question. You 21 years is a long time. You've done a lot. You've been on the sub, like you've been to Afghanistan. I would love to hear like some of maybe the bad things you've gone through, so that we can be informed on just how it has made you into the human you are today. And I don't want to naively say like that you've kind of worked through everything. I don't know where you are in the situation of, the baggage that we all have, if you've processed through it, if you've been able to heal from it, this, that, and the other. But these are huge moments in your life. So the things that you have gone through, particularly the bad and even some of the good, how has that informed your life post service? Because you obviously had to make a decision like, I no longer want to do this. How did you come to that decision, and how has that affected your life forward?
Yeah. So the first aspect of that, why did I get out of the military? Two major reasons. One, I was at terminal pay grade, they call it, so I couldn't go any higher. I was a command master chief. I'd done 2 command tours, and I really felt like there was nothing left on the branch for me. You know, I was at the end, just a dead tree, not growing anymore. So time to move on. So that's why I ended my service. I retired. I could have gone to 30 years at my rank, but at 22 and a half, it was a good enough pension, and I was still felt relatively young, and I could start another career. Also, my marriage at the time was ending. It had ended several years prior, but we kind of stayed together for the kids, just to keep it simple. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that woman was the mother of my children, and I thought that it was a bit selfish to keep her in that kind of cycle of, oh, well, you're going to move in 3 years, and then for the kids, for me to ever see the children, they'd have to live locally because I deploy and I have to be at work, and it wasn't just me I was making the decision for. So the situation for my marriage that was ending, and the children who were in junior high, I think, 8th grade, let them settle down somewhere, have a high school experience like I did. And, I had nothing more to achieve in the military. I'd done it all. So, as far as the baggage, the other aspect of that is, at that rank, it's very political.
Your leader.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. You're no longer the tip of the sphere. You're I like to say, the hood ornament. You're just the guy that comes out and says, okay, fellas or ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go do this. And, I felt very out of character. I'm more a doer. I'm a hands-on type person. So, so that's why I ended it. As far as like the places I've been and the things that I've done, which quite frankly are horrible. Does it bother me? Not every day. Like, I'm not someone who walks around and talks about, lost a lot of good guys out there, which we did. But, it doesn't, I think I'm enough of an intellectual to kind of rationalize the things that happened to me. I see them for what they are. I respect them and the people involved in them enough to not use it as an excuse to not live my life and do the things that they would want me to do. So really, in my heart and in my mind, I live my life out of respect for the people and the places that I've been. It might sound a bit ridiculous, but and maybe hard to understand what I'm trying to communicate. But the folks that did die and that were there with me would want me to be happy and to do great fun things and not be so serious about everything, and to try to make the world a better place locally. That's the other thing. Like, I don't really concentrate on big issues. You can make a much bigger impact if you focus on the things around you. How are you making the world better around you? And it could be as simple as, are you a nice person? Like one of my most redeeming qualities, I feel like, is that I make eye contact with people and I speak to them like they're another person. And I ask them questions and I listen to their answer. Like if I had to list my qualities that I like about me, is that when I ask somebody, hey, how are you doing today? I am expecting an answer other than, oh, I'm good. Like if they like, oh, I'm not, I'm having a rough day. And I'm like, oh, really? What's going on, dude? Let's go get a fucking ice cream or something. Like, like I just feel like we've become the society that is so focused on these worldly problems that we kind of gloss over the things that we can do to make the world marginally better, if that makes any sense at all. But it's like supporting the sport of triathlon. Bro, I don't even keep track of what I do, but I give money. I have given time, effort, my opinion. I've connected people that I thought would be able to be beneficial to each other, in the triathlon world. And I've gotten zero money. Like there's not going to be a statue for me. I get it. And, I get a thank you and that's good enough. Because I think we kind of focus on these big problems or we try to make these big changes. And really all you have to do is whatever you can do day to day. So I think that's my takeaway from, my very traumatic, I don't want to call them traumatic because I'm not traumatized.
I would say that they are traumatic. You haven't said what they are, but I can almost
I would say
they are.
Yeah, they can be traumatic. Sure.
Yeah. They cause trauma and it's okay. Like it seems like you're working through it or worked through it.
And I don't like, I have my things. I have my like if I'm hungry, Lynette's always like, oh, let me make you a sandwich, because she could tell I start to get a little like aggravated with, minor things. Mm-hmm. And I think that is stemmed from some of my experiences in places like Afghanistan. Sure. And, I was in charge of a submarine crew and I had a young man. This is the one thing I'll share with you because it's really a big deal for me.
Thank you.
I was on a submarine and I had a young man, and he was doing okay. Like, I had like 250 people I was in charge of. So it was like a lot for one person, but I would check in with him every now and then. Very low ranking guy. I was the boss. So, most people at that point in my career, they'd tell, oh, everything's great. Yeah, I'm having a great time. Please don't, they don't really give you the true deal. But I would walk up to him every day and be like, hey, how's it going, dude? I know it sucks. You're down here cleaning toilets and washing dishes, and that's not what you joined the military to do. But, in 6 months, you'll be working the fries, like you kind of got to work your way up, Yeah. So, and it's a tough time because I remember doing that. And I'll never forget, I rarely drank when I was the chief of the boat because you're on call 24/7. I mean, you can drink, but I went out, I had a few drinks, and I'm sitting in my living room and my phone rings at 10:30. And I'm like, that's not good. It's the skipper, the captain of the ship. And he goes, hey, Cobb, this is Skipper. I need you to come down to the barracks. We had one of our sailors commit suicide. And I just told him, I said, Skipper, I have 4 or 5 beers in me. I said, I couldn't get there legally. And 2, I probably wouldn't be adding much value to the situation because I'm inebriated. He's like, I understand. I said, I'll have one of my, my direct reports show up and handle it. So I called buddy of mine, senior chief, next rank down. I said, hey, man, you're getting called up to the bigs, brother. This is what happened. You got to go down. So he went down, took care of it. This young man was with a bunch of sailors. His buddies went out and he did mushrooms.
Mm.
And his buddies were like, "Hey, man, that's not cool." They took him home. He lived on the 3rd floor in the barracks, and they actually locked him in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
Like while he was like tripping out, because they didn't want him to get in trouble, because he would have got thrown out of the military.
Yeah.
And he broke out of the bathroom, like just destroyed the bathroom, like ripped the toilet out, like got out of the bathroom and just fucking Superman right out of the 3rd story window and died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And, you know, it was horrible. It was horrible. You know, I had 249 folks then that I had to like work through this experience. But the part that got me was his parents were expatriates. His father was former military. He lived in England. And they flew into San Diego, and I went and picked them up at the airport. Full dress blues. You know, I got the vehicle right there, ready to go. They're in the international terminal, coming through customs. Security guard comes out. I'm standing there at parade rest, waiting for them to walk through. And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you here to pick somebody up?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Is it an older couple, man and a woman?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir. It's one of my sailors' parents. He passed." And he goes, You gotta come get her." He goes, "This woman is on the floor."
Mm.
And I walked in to the customs area, and I mean, his mom was on the floor bawling, like just completely lost it. And the dad's like looking at me, and like I carried his mom out of customs. They didn't even check their bags. Like it was like, just take them. I carried him out of customs, and once we got out next to the car, she like kind of pulled herself together a little bit, and she looked at me and asked me why her son had to die.
Mm.
And I was like, shit. You know, what do you say? What do you say to that? And I just said, "Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry. I can't imagine how you feel, and I'm here to do whatever I can to make your time here as easy as possible. My name is Mark Evans. I'm his command master chief, and for the next 5 days, I am at your disposal." And she just kind of hugged me for like 10 minutes. And, you know, she was crying and just hugged me and kept asking me why and why and why. And, you know, I have dreams of that, like to this day. I will never forget that, you know, like the way it smelled or the look in her eye. Even more so the look on his dad's face. Because I just felt like he was in shock, and he felt probably so helpless. Like his son was dead, and he was incapable of consoling his wife. And you know, that'll haunt you, man. That's, he was 20 years old, you know? Baby. And, you know, after that, maybe a little before that, but after that, I never second guessed myself after that. Because here's the secret. No matter what you do, how you do it, you have to live with the consequences. So, you know, when I would do something, I was always very deliberate, and I always thought things through, and I gave things the proper time and the proper consideration prior to taking action on them. And then I did them, and then that was it. And every Monday morning, quarterbacked myself. I never thought about what if I did this or what if I did that, because once my decision was made, I knew that after that experience that I could probably live with any of the consequences I would have to live with. And once again, I did everything right. I checked in with that kid every day. I made sure he had everything he needed. I talked to him. I told him, hey man, I'm here for you. These are the resources, if you need any help. I even told his buddies he was with that night, like, I don't give a fuck. Call me. I will fucking come get you. Nothing bad will happen. Right. But it still ended poorly. And he was one of 2 sailors that I had lost on that ship. So, yeah, it's tough. It was a tough experience, and I don't talk about it a whole lot, but it's something in my life I'll never forget. And it's something that I continually process from different perspectives. Like, now I'm 50, I have kids that age, like things I said, things I did, was that the right thing? You know what I mean? But, in the military, shortly after that, I never questioned myself. But now that I'm just an old guy doing podcasts, I do think about that one instance. But everything else is kind of relatively minor compared to that. So.
Has anybody ever told you that it's not your fault?
Unfortunately, Seth, that is my fault.
It's your fault that he died?
Yes. So there's a thing in the military called the burden of command. And you're not a military guy, so you may not understand it, but it doesn't matter if you're in the shower, taking a shit in your underwear, in your house at 1:00 in the morning. You are 1,000% responsible for that ship and every soul on it. Doesn't matter, buddy. And it's formally my fault that he died. So, unfortunately, in the world that we live in, well, not unfortunately, but in the world that we live in, we try to mitigate things, blame and responsibility, I would say, largely in the civilian world. Like, yeah, you had a rough childhood, or you didn't have the resource. And I get that. And I think that's, to some extent, that's a good thing. In the military, there are people who get held accountable for things that they had absolutely zero control over. Sure. And that's called the burden of control. And that's why the military is structured that way, because it wouldn't work any other way. So officially, on military documents, he was a sailor under my command and under my regard, and I am responsible for his well-being. So, I get it. It wasn't my fault. I understand what you're trying to say to me, and I acknowledge it, and I appreciate the sentiment. But as a military person in a position of authority, you have responsibilities. And you know what? I know men, I know commanders that lost their job over things that absolutely not their fault. But that's just the way it works, man. So
I believe you, and I respect that. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
And then I'll kind of move to the final couple of questions so you can get some sleep. But you seem to be a believer. You have Romans.
Yep.
I have it written down.
12:21.
12:21. Don't be overcome by evil. Be overcome with evil with good. Beautiful passage, and probably another time I'm going to ask you more about that. But that brings me to the place of, like, you're obviously a believer. The concept of forgiveness is great, but for you, being able to offer that to yourself, like, do you feel like you have been able to offer forgiveness to yourself, even though it was on your watch, on your time, under your responsibility?
I think we have a different perspective on forgiveness. I don't think I need to be forgiven for anything. I, you know, what happened happened, and same thing with fault. Like to me, fault and forgiveness in that situation is irrelevant, right? Because it's not going to what does it matter that it's my fault? At the end of the day, what does that really matter? Like, I'll tell you, his parents didn't care. They just wanted their kid back, you know?
Mm.
So for me, to seek forgiveness or to accept fault is almost, it almost belittles the gravity of the situation, you know, like why, it's almost, in my opinion, it's almost selfish to want to be forgiven, because that forgiveness is only going to serve me, and I don't need it. I don't need to be forgiven. It's my fault. I don't care that it's my fault. It happened. It was horrible. I didn't turn away from it. I conducted myself as I felt my family name and my father and my grandfather, and with respect and dignity for both my family name and the United States Navy. And I think that's how, if there is a forgiveness out there, that's how you earn it. You know, I sat with it. I didn't self-preservate, which happens a lot when people make huge errors.
Sure.
They try to make mistakes and say, oh, it wasn't my fault. I said, no, it's 100% my fault. And I'm here, and I'm going to do what I can to salvage this situation out of respect for you, the family, and that poor boy, man. Sorry, he's a man. And respect from who I am as a person and the military. So yeah, do I feel forgiven? Yes. Do I need someone to tell me that I'm forgiven? No, I don't. I did exactly what my father would have want me to do, and exactly what my military rank and tradition would call for me to do. And it was not easy. And I would not want anyone to have to do it.
Sure.
So that's my forgiveness. As I sat with it, I accepted responsibility, and I saw it through to the end.
Do you deserve to feel peace? Do you
I do feel peace.
Yeah.
I feel peace, but I think, peace is relative, right? I'm not getting shot at anymore or doing dangerous things anymore, or I'm not responsible for young adults who make poor choices anymore. I have an amazing job. I have a bunch of carbon fiber bicycles out there that I ride all the time. I travel. I spend quality time with my children. I have a beautiful fiance who loves me for, I don't know why, but, so, am I at peace? Absolutely. I am living my life in accordance with the things that I believe, and the things that I believe that the people who have met misfortune along my path would want me to live it. And I remember them and I honor them in very intimate and personal ways. That if I were to die and move on from this world, if people would remember me as I do them and think of them in very meaningful ways, that'd be a good life, and that would honor me. Like, I don't need to publicly be acknowledged to, like, throwing myself on their gravestone and crying, and that's just not who I am, and I'm not going to do it. I've forgiven myself by doing the hard work of seeing to the situation.
Well said. I will say this one final thing before I ask kind of my final question. I do somewhat, perhaps too much, pride myself on the ability to, at least what I think, be able to understand a human or the things that they've gone through to a degree, or be able to kind of, I don't know, at least categorize that person in my mind enough to be at peace internally with who I think they are, where they're going, what they want to do. That you are a very complex individual, and I say that in the best possible sense. I enjoy talking to people who I think I understand them in one moment, and then in the next I'm like, oh, maybe not so much. You've given me a lot to think of, so I really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
there are some things I do disagree with, but I don't have the I don't even think it's appropriate to try to disagree with some of those things. I guess it would be the most simplest way to put it.
And that's
However,
and that's okay.
yeah, and I think that if I did disagree with you openly, you'd probably be pretty kind and understanding that, well, this kid's only 30 or 20 years younger than me, and I've seen a lot more of the world. So we'll leave that by the way.
It's all about perspective, my friend.
Exactly. But you have given a lot of context for who you are. I mean, we've only been talking for an hour and a half ish. So most people can draw some sort of a conclusion for who they think you are based on this, and that's just how humans work. But for you, in the closing question, like, who is Mark to you?
Who is Mark to me? Well, I think you know who he is? He's a little boy who sees the world one way, and despite some of the things that happened to him and some of the cold hard truths that's been dealt to him, he still sees it that way. And for me, it's about coming back to full circle. I had this very romantic viewpoint on the world as a young man. I thought it was a good place, and I thought most people were generally good, and I thought if you worked hard and you did everything you were supposed to do, that things would work out. And then I experienced life, and I saw a lot of horrible things, and I saw a lot of people that were not good. I saw a lot of places and a lot of problems and a lot of issues that if I spent 15 lifetimes, I couldn't fix. And to some extent, I would collect those and try, I'm going to fix that someday, thinking that somehow I would be able to fix it. And despite all those experiences and some of the horrible things that have happened to me, I still think the world is a good place. I still think people are generally good. I still think that if you do everything you're supposed to do, that things will work out for you. And there's a quote, and I don't remember who said it, but it's something to the effect that every man will meet his destiny on his path he takes to avoid it. So I feel like despite taking several paths away from my initial romanticized view of the world, that I'm exactly on it. And the world is exactly what I thought it was, in spite of all the bad things that I've experienced. So I wake up every day and I assume the world is a good place and that people are generally good. And then if I work hard, exercise, eat right, get enough sleep, that I will be taken care of And to this point in my life, that has largely been true.
Remain true.
And I think a lot of the people around me appreciate that about me, is my optimism, if you will. It's not optimism. It's, hey, we're all here, and
Belief.
yeah, you have to believe and you have to find the good in people. So that's who I am. I'm not special and I'm not perfect. I'm deeply flawed. I deal with all the issues that you deal with, that make you feel like you're not a good person sometimes too. But I'm playing the percentages here. You know, I'm gonna give myself 75% of the time I am the man I want to be. 10% of the time I'm pretty close, and the rest is I don't think too hard about.
Yeah.
That's the best you can do.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to live. I really do believe that. Living from a place of positivity rather than negativity. You see what you look for. So I think if we have that mindset, that makes a difference.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I am a believer. Not necessarily in any specific religion, but I will tell you this, that I've seen men, very strong, grown men, pray to Jesus Christ Almighty with every ounce of their being in situations. And if you'd asked them 10 minutes before that situation, they'd tell you there's no God. He doesn't exist. So, I've seen it. So
we all need a father.
You're never going to convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Beautiful.
If that's not for you, then that's not for you. I don't care. For me, that's a very personal thing. And I have discussions with my family about things like that, but I don't really get involved with conversations about religion or politics or any of the high fashion things these days.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I'd love to have you on again sometime to hear more about your beliefs then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll shoot you straight, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Mark, it's now 10 p.m. your time. I know you got to be tired. I thank you for letting me run it a little bit longer, just to hear more of your story. And I do want to have you on again, so I'll reach out. But thank you so much for sharing from such a deep place. I know those core memories that we hold that define, I don't want to say define who we are, but they certainly define the moments when we were able to choose who we want to be, are important and valuable and sometimes very hard to share. So thank you for opening up and sharing that, especially in a public forum. I don't feel like anyone's listening. Honestly, I never listen to my own podcast. I feel like I'm just having conversations. But I know people will listen to it and find value in it. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate talking to you, man. You're a good man.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Mark for coming on the pod, sharing in such a beautiful way, and being willing to share contrarian type of ways of thinking, I would say. He obviously is a very structured and deep thinking man, and I really appreciate him taking the time to share in the way that he did. So again, thank you so much, Mark, for coming on. Really appreciate it. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much. Check out the show notes for all the links for from Mark's Instagram to the Stupid Questions website, where you can get some socks to support the podcast and other stuff like the newsletter. Sign up there. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you could like, review, comment, subscribe, leave a review, all of those things continue to help grow the podcast there. And if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe as well, and turn on the notification bell. Yep, I think that's it. I'm a little spaced out. It's a little late. Gonna go eat some dinner, but thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.